Hi, everybody. It's your host of Freedom to Fight, and Yura Mathis. I thought about this for a little bit, but I want to share some stuff with you. I am a little bit reluctant, but it's just because I'm a little nervous to talk about it. So I'd like for my audience to get to know me a bit better and for us to talk about some of the subjects that we've covered this season so far. So yeah, I want to give a trigger warning because we're talking about some heavy stuff, domestic violence and trauma and things of the like. And just kind of brace yourself for that and realize that this is what we're going to talk about on my channel. So I'm going to go backwards, or most recent episode to episode 1. So episode 3, 2, 1, starting with episode 3, McDojoLife. So yeah, I hope that you like this. I'm going to start doing a new segment, and doing kind of a recap of the episode. So I hope that you like it, and perhaps we can do a live and we can talk to each other, and you can give me your opinions, and yeah. So thanks for listening. Hi, everybody. So in episode 3, McDojoLife, we talk about what Rob Ingram does. He exposes frauds and fakes and pedophiles and people that have abused their power in the martial arts community. And I find this to be incredibly important because, in general, it's important to call out things because when there's not any awareness, it kind of breeds in the darkness. So, I find it to be challenging to call people out, but I do think that it's imperative to do that. So much respect to Rob, and I'm very grateful that he was on my show. And I want to talk about this, this subject. The first thing I have on my list is cults. What is a cult? What that feels like, and I really want to share my experience because I've escaped from cults before. I am living in Colorado now, and I moved to a new city, and I've discovered that there are a lot of cults here. There are a lot of active cults as well. So, yay! I just stumbled upon, some cults. And you might wonder why I know that. I'm a Black woman in a state where there's not a lot of Black people, and so people kind of act funny towards me. Not everybody, but some people do, and some people really, really stand out. So they've kind of made themselves known as, a group, or a hate group, rather. I know that the city that I live in was started by a hate group. The city that's adjacent to me was started by a different hate group. So there's just kind of a culture here of unifying to hate groups of people and to oppress and marginalize those people. So these aspects are coming up in my everyday life. And so I figure, because we've covered that on the episode, let's talk about it. So what is a cult? I Googled it to see what would come up. And it's generally a small group. That's what Google says. And that they have an extreme amount of devotion to a belief system. Generally, the leader is charismatic. But that's kind of general. So being someone that's escaped some cults, I'll tell you, in my experience, it's not the group I was a part of. I didn't consider a cult. I would have never said that uh, way back when, because I was very connected with those people. Spent a lot of my life with those people, and so I didn't consider them to be bad in any way. Consider them to be human beings, and sometimes we make mistakes, but I didn't consider them to be inherently bad. And so I think that's an aspect of a cult is um, being on the inside. You're just kind of going with the flow, like being a part of that system. But if you realize at some point that your role in that system is to fuel something that's really not for the greater good, I think that's the definition of a cult. It's any group. It doesn't have to be a small group. Also, Google says that it's uh, a cult can grow to the size. When does it become a religion? And it's when it's grown to this, when it's gathered some influence, and then the government has to recognize it as a religion. And Scientology is one of those um, groups that made it to a religion. Um, and I'll tell you that discovering what Scientology is and just the history behind that, my goodness, really opened my eyes to what I experienced. And it was very, very heartbreaking and traumatizing to learn those things. But it's just that. It's that you may be vulnerable in some way to be subjected to some sort of like hypnosis, like some, it's grooming. They kind of have to attract you in some way, and it's generally when you kind of feel lost, or you're looking for some answers. And some people are grow up in these groups, but uh, that person that's trying to kind of get you to join is targeting that like a salesman. Come over here, I have everything that you need. Let me talk to you for a little bit. And it's just like any other group, but you become less and less an individual. You're really part of the whole. You're serving the whole. And so um yes, some cultures function this way, but the aspects that I've noticed in the groups that I was a part of is that your opinions didn't really matter if you spoke up, about things that you weren't all that comfortable with. Then it there was some backlash, and it was like groups of people that would kind of keep everybody in line. So it was a hierarchy, but everybody was serving a whole. And I do find that in my experience and what I know about other cults is there's there's loyalty, but there is um it's like blind loyalty. You're losing yourself in that, and you're kind of lying about it all. Like whatever idea that you serve, you're not actually serving that. You're not actually committing in the way that you are saying that you are. So, if, as an example, even spiritual groups can be considered a cult if what they are, what their intentions are, is to help and serve people and lift people up. But then they're, you know, being catty behind the scenes, they're gossiping, they're even like bullying people that have spoken out. Like, they're doing just the opposite of what they stand for in the shadows. So it's like, look for things like that in the martial arts community. I feel like that's what I experienced with my previous gyms. So let me tell you a little bit about my experience in leaving the gyms that I was a part of. So I sustained a concussion the end of October 2022. I I had never sustained a concussion. I didn't realize that's what was going on. And I really didn't have anybody looking out for me. So, although I kind of considered this to be a family or what have you, meaning that it's safe and that people were looking out for me, that wasn't happening. So I went a couple of days, I think, from sustaining the concussion to realizing, hey, there's something very seriously wrong and I need to go to the emergency room. So I sent a text to my sensei, but in the interim, prior to sending back to him and me going to the hospital, some really strange things were happening. So I sustained my concussion and training for Muay Thai, training with my coach, one of the coaches there, and I was just being hit extremely hard. And it seemed bizarre at the time, but I just there's kind of a tough guy mentality. So you don't, you're trying to handle more than perhaps you would if there was not a group of people watching you. So um but after leaving class, I didn't feel like my experience there was right. So I sensed something was wrong, but I didn't realize, hey, I got hit so hard. I have a head injury. Um, so I reached out to my sensei and I complained because I felt like people were making fun or treating me different. It was like there was an inside joke and I was on the outside, inside joke about me and I was on the outside. So um, I didn't like that. It made me very angry. So I just kind of decided in that moment, hey, I'm quitting this gym. I'm not going to come back. And I did backtrack and kind of reconsider it. And I went back and forth with my sensei talking about that. But I shared with him I was going to the hospital and I had an awful experience at the hospital, and I might talk about this in other episodes, but I sent like my medical paperwork to my sensei thinking this is going to matter in some way. I'm going to have some support in some way, and that didn't happen at all. Um, I also shared with my sensei that there was a man there that was also hitting me too hard, and I really didn't realize it. Training in Muay Thai is pretty brutal. We hit each other hard, and generally with a level of safety and security, we have some sort of understanding. But that's not what was happening with this guy, and it felt very intentional, but it didn't click until I kind of realized, oh, this is not how it's supposed to feel. I'm not supposed to be getting hit this hard. And another experience I had was with my sensei's wife. She just so happens to also be a therapist, and so I felt I can be vulnerable with her. She's a woman. She's training. She's my sensei's wife. But there's a time that we were sparring, and I could kind of sense the attitude that she had towards me. She was pretty aggressive. She's putting on a smiley face or whatever. But um, at the end of our sparring session, she split my lip open. She hit me so hard, she split my lip open. That had never happened before. And I had a date later on that night. I think I might have even said it, but it just seemed like, and the way that this happened, let me explain this. Muay Thai sparring, you could go different levels, Um, we don't generally go 100% ever. But I was training in training in Muay Thai for a long period of time without sparring. I didn't realize the importance of sparring, and so I wasn't doing that. And so this was maybe my second or third Muay Thai sparring session, and she knew that. She was well aware. I mean, it the training level that I was at compared to her, she'd been training for years with her husband. So when she hit me, she had a clear shot, meaning like I maybe had even dropped my hands or something. She had the advantage, and I think that she realized that, and she just hit me as hard as she could. That didn't seem like an accident, like she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I had blood on her gloves all over. I was bleeding all over." Like, um, I didn't realize the message was, "I don't like you," and whatever issues her and her husband were having were coming out for sure at the gym. So, um, I didn't realize I was getting hit too hard, but I did know that something was wrong, um, and maybe a month prior to sustaining the concussion and going to the hospital, I had a conversation with my sensei about payment, and he said that I was a month behind, and I didn't calculate that. Like, I didn't think that I was a month behind, but apparently when I got injured prior, I went to the hospital. I wasn't able to train, and I think I just misunderstood whatever his pay structure was, but I made a deal with him that I would pay a little bit more every month until, we were even, but I just didn't think that it was appropriate. Being a therapist, if a client even schedules an appointment with me and then tells me, "Hey, I need to go to the hospital because I'm injured." I can't make our sessions for a little while. I'm not going to be charging them that. I'm not going to be expecting that money. So it's just not how I thought about things. So cut to me going to the hospital, I I decided I wasn't going to be a part of that gym anymore, and that this just there's just too many things that were wrong. And my sensei said he understood, and yada, yada, yada. Cut to a couple of days later, I had to go back to the hospital. And this time it was quite severe. So, first time I got to the hospital by my neighbor, she took me on her way out. Second time I had to go into an ambulance. Um, and it was quite scary. And I don't remember everything that happened, but I do remember waking up with breathing tubes in my nose, meaning I couldn't breathe on my own. So, quite severe. Um, I was discharged the following morning, um, but in that time frame, of course, I'm more upset. I had a near death experience. That's really what happened, and I I was kind of shaken awake, and I reached out to my sensei, and I remember having an argument. I remember sending him a picture of my busted lip that his wife gave me, and he responded, "Don't reach out to me again." So my sensei knew I had a concussion, knew I had to go to the hospital, knew perhaps that I was hospitalized a second time, and knew that I was having issues with the gym, and didn't take any responsibility. Really just said, "Hey, stop reaching out. This is not my problem anymore." Um, and the thing was, I had given him, I lent him a book of my mother's, my late mother's, him and a couple of other gym members. And so I there was some things to kind of settle, but I didn't reach out to him again after he said that to me. Um, I'd never ever had an argument with him whatsoever. There was a disagreement about money, but we weren't arguing. So this coming up, it was a little unsettling. And then I noticed that although he's kicking me out of the gym, he charged my debit card maybe 5 or 6 times. I was unconscious over and over and over again. He knew I was probably not going to return to the gym. He knew that the competition I was preparing for was completely off the table. He knew I was back in the hospital. And still, that was his response. And what he was doing in the dark was just trying to get his money. Not even talking to me about it. Like, how do we sell your balance if you're not coming back? And yada, yada, yada. And like, these are people that I gave full trust to. So I wanted to make sure to cover that so that people know the true story. People need to know the truth. That's the idea behind um, this show is the fucking truth, you know. It's hard to do that, but I had people betray me. And guess what, everybody? That wasn't even the last time I was hospitalized. I was hospitalized a third time because I wasn't getting the appropriate care. Everybody thinks you go to the hospital, you have a concussion, everybody knows what to, no, not every practitioner knows what to do. They did not handle my situation well. It put my life in danger. The people that were training me at the gym put my life in danger. They didn't make sure I was okay. We didn't ever resolve things, you know, as far as that goes. I got my mother's books back. I sent a money order for, you know, my last gym, you know, payment or whatever, and my the shipping cost of sending my mom's books to me because I was not allowed to drive a car after I was out of the hospital because I had a head injury. So he had to mail them to me, and my uncle had to go back out of state. He drove from out of state to come and take care of me. And I'm going back and forth with my sensei and trying to explain to my family what's actually going on, you know, that are in Texas, that are in a different state. So all of this chaos was going on. I want people to know the truth of that. I want people to recognize that not every martial artist, you know, is going to be telling the truth. These are business owners as well. And I'm sure that most business martial arts gyms, dojos function a bit differently. But being a independent person, being an entrepreneur, being a self-employed person, I know that there's ups and downs uh, in business. You know, it takes a few years for you to be able to see a return on your investment. But you have to be careful that you're not using your gym members, that you're not using your clients, that you're not using people outside of what is respectful. You know, this is money. We're talking about my fucking life. And I've never received an apology. I've never received, you know, hey, maybe we didn't do this right. Maybe we should improve on these things, not from anybody that was ever involved. And I wrote a letter to my sensei apologizing for my actions. So, coming from a cult culture, I was conditioned to ability for other people. And that can happen, you know, going into a martial arts gym, you are not immune to your trauma. Your trauma comes with you. And so whatever conditioning that you have comes with you. And just remember that walking into a place, these are just human beings, you know, and sometimes it's human beings that are not doing their own healing that are going to project on you, take it out on you, and it's just not okay. You know, you get to set your boundaries. But even living in a cult community now, I get to say what I tolerate, you know. I don't believe what you believe, but I don't need to hate you. But if you hate me, I'm only going to let that go so far. You know, I'm going to tell the truth. And so if you break the law, if you do something outside of the society's legal boundaries, then I'm going to do something about it. So I'm really referring to the cult community that I'm a part of now that wants to pretend like everything is fine and smile and wave because they know they're being investigated now. So I just want to be very clear. My perspective on cults, my experience from escaping cults, and to share that with with my audience that this can happen in a martial arts gym. Check out McDojo's page, Rob's page. You'll get plenty of information. He's also making a documentary. Hey, um, but just know that you can fall victim in any group of people, and to have good reserves. To say, hey, I'll tolerate this, but I'm not going to tolerate this. And I'll only tolerate this for so long, and to really have firm boundaries, because a cult leader or someone that displays cult mentality, they are not looking to respect your boundaries. They're not looking to, and they're not really looking to reveal themselves either. It's really the what we say in talking about narcissistic abuse. We talk about love bombing. It's this charming phase in the beginning to kind of rope you in. That's what cult members do. Everything is happy and pretty on this side. We have everything that you want and need. Trust us, like, but every human being has the capacity to be the greatest or the worst, to whatever degree that is. And I'm sure that changes and grows, but know that we're all human beings, and have your boundaries set, and know when to leave situations that are not good for you. Um, I I wanted to share that. So thank you for listening, and I'll share the recaps for episode 2 and 1.